had everything. A perfect family, a perfect life, or so I thought. I graduated with my nursing degree, something I worked for years to achieve. My parents were proud, or at least I thought they were. But when it came time for the gifts, things didn't go as I expected. My sister Emma walked in with the keys to a fully furnished condo. The applause that followed, the proud smiles on their faces, it was all for her, for me. A gym membership and a note that I needed to work on myself. At first I thought it was a joke, but as the night dragged on, the laughter, the light-hearted remarks, it wasn't. They were serious. My mind spun. The people I loved, the ones who raised me, they had just made their choice. I wasn't the one they were proud of. I wasn't the one they cared about. The sting was there, deep inside me, but I kept it together. The evening, however, held more than just a hurtful gift exchange. The way they treated me, the way they looked at Emma, it all hit differently as the night wore on. I wasn't sure what hurt more, being compared to Emma or realizing they didn't see me for who I truly was. I walked out of that night with a broken heart and a quiet resolve. I didn't need them. I didn't need their approval. What I did need was something they couldn't give me, something I could earn on my own. But when I discovered what they'd done, the real betrayal, that was a moment I never saw coming. The days after the graduation party were a blur, but one thing became painfully clear. Emma had always been the golden child. I had worked my whole life to make my parents proud. Every sacrifice, every late-night study session, every exhausting shift at the hospital, it was all for them. But now, standing in the middle of their house, it felt like I was invisible. It wasn't just the condo, it wasn't just the gym membership, it was everything that came with it. The way they spoke about Emma's accomplishments with pride, while I was barely acknowledged. I remember sitting at dinner a few days later, trying to be calm, trying to stay neutral. Emma's really doing well for herself, my mom said, her voice soft, almost reverent. She's such a go-getter. I'm just so proud of how she's taken charge of her life. My dad nodded, eyes twinkling as he added, "It's not easy to be successful, you know. It's like she was born for this." I wanted to say something, to scream even, but I just sat there. The words stuck in my throat. I had a degree, a career I had built from scratch, but none of that seemed to matter. My whole life I was told to be patient, to wait my turn, to do my part. But what was my part really? Just a placeholder? My mother, noticing the silence, glanced at me and quickly added, "You're doing great too, sweetheart, but you know, Emma, she's really got it together." That was it. It wasn't a compliment. It wasn't encouragement. It was an afterthought. A nice, soft pat on the back to make me feel better. I wasn't sure which hurt more, the weight of Emma's success or the hollow way I was treated as if my own achievements meant nothing. I spent the next few days lost in my own mind, replaying those moments over and over again. How could they not see me? How could they not see the woman I had become? The woman who had pushed through every challenge, every setback, just to prove I was worthy of their love and respect. But in the end, it wasn't about me. It was about Emma, about their belief in her potential, a belief that came with a price. And the truth slowly began to sink in. I was never going to be enough. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, I would always be in her shadow. The thought crushed me, but that's when something inside me shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry, furious. I had given everything to them, and all I had gotten in return was neglect. But what was I supposed to do now? Was I supposed to forgive them? Let it go? Or was this the moment when everything changed? The moment I had to choose to stop fighting for their approval and start fighting for myself? Could I ever forgive them for this? Or had the line been crossed and there was no going back? I had always known there was something off about the way things were, but I couldn't put my finger on it until the day it all came crashing down. It started with a phone call from my aunt, someone I hadn't heard from in years. Her voice was shaky, almost hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she should be telling me what she was about to. "I need to talk to you about something," she said. "It's about your grandmother's will." At first, I thought it was a mistake. My grandmother had passed away years ago, and I thought everything had been settled. But as my aunt continued, my world tilted. "Your parents, they took your inheritance," she whispered. I couldn't believe it. My grandmother had left $50,000 for each of us, me and Emma, but somehow I was never told. I had always been under the impression that I had declined the inheritance to help with Emma's future. That's what my parents had told me, and I believed them. They had always made it sound so noble, like it was the right thing to do, the selfless thing to do. I had sacrificed, thinking it was for the best. "They used your money for Emma's condo," my aunt said, her words like ice in my veins. "They didn't tell you because they didn't want you to know." I felt the ground beneath me tremble. All those years of working, of trying to prove myself worthy of their love and respect, and it had all been for nothing. They hadn't just given Emma everything. They had stolen from me, too. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. The gym membership, the forced humility, all the times I had been made to feel like I wasn't enough. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just a misjudgment. It was deliberate. I couldn't breathe. I had spent months convincing myself that my worth was tied to their approval, and now I saw it for what it really was, a game. And I had been losing from the start. I spent the next few days in a haze, the weight of the truth suffocating me. I thought back to all the moments I had brushed aside, all the excuses they made. "We're just trying to give Emma a head start," they'd say. "We want her to succeed." But what about me? What about my hard work, my sacrifices? What about the person who had done everything right, who had been loyal and patient, and yet was always overlooked? All those years, I had been waiting for a chance to prove myself, for a moment where they'd finally see me. But I had been blind to the truth. They never would. Not because I wasn't enough, but because they had already made their choice. It wasn't about me. It was about Emma, and that was the hardest pill to swallow. I had been living in denial for so long, telling myself it would get better, telling myself that one day I would be the one they would turn to. But that day was never coming. So I made a decision. I couldn't keep living this lie. But as the anger swirled inside me, so did the fear. What would I do next? Was I really ready to confront them? To take back what was mine? Or was I too afraid of the consequences? Would I lose everything, including my family, if I followed through? The path ahead wasn't clear, but one thing was certain. I was done being invisible. I had to take the next step, but was I ready for it? I had finally made up my mind. I couldn't let this go. I had spent too long convincing myself that things would get better, that my family would change, but no more. The betrayal, the lies. It all came down to this moment. I was going to confront them, take back what was mine, and make sure they understood the consequences of their actions. The first step was simple, gathering the evidence. I called the lawyer. "Yes, I'm certain this is what my grandmother intended," he said, confirming the will's details. "The money had been taken from me and used without my consent. I had never been told about it, never given a chance to make a decision. It wasn't just a mistake, it was theft. I spent days putting everything together, the documents, the bank statements, the legal proof that my inheritance had been siphoned off. I could already feel the weight of it all in my hands, but the more I prepared, the more I felt this gnawing doubt. What was I really hoping to achieve? Justice? Revenge? Part of me wanted to believe I was doing this for what was right, that I was reclaiming my independence, my dignity. But another part of me wondered if I was just trying to make them pay for the years of hurt, for the neglect, for the way they made me feel small. What would you do if you were in my shoes? I asked myself, my mind racing. Would you confront them, or would you quietly plan your next move? I could already imagine the scene, the tension, the hurt, the inevitable fallout. Was it worth it? Was it worth losing them forever to get what I deserved? I wasn't sure. But what I did know was that I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I couldn't keep waiting for them to see me, to acknowledge the years of effort and sacrifice. The moment had come. I was going to make them face the truth. "You have to decide," I muttered to myself. "Do you want revenge, or do you want to walk away from this, finally free?" I could feel my heart race as I made the call to my parents. It was time. I was no longer the daughter they could overlook. I was done being the quiet one. The hardest part wasn't getting revenge, it was deciding who I was going to become in the process. Would I be the woman they tried to control, or the woman who took back what was hers, no matter the cost? The tension was building inside me, like I was on the edge of something big. The confrontation was coming. But little did I know. It wasn't just the fight with them that would change me, it was the fight within myself. And that I wasn't ready for. I had everything planned. The documents were in place, the evidence clear. I had the truth on my side. But as I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the papers, a knot began to form in my stomach. What was I really doing? Was this about revenge or justice? I told myself I was doing it for closure, for what was right. But somewhere deep down, I knew that part of me wanted them to feel the pain I had felt all these years. I had spent so much of my life waiting for their approval, trying to prove myself, only to be overlooked and manipulated. Now I had the chance to take back what was mine. But at what cost? Could I truly move on if I went down this path? I didn't know. I knew what I had to do, but I wasn't sure who I'd become once I did it. As I sat there, my phone buzzed. It was Emma. I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since the day everything had come to light. I was shocked to see her name on the screen. "I need to talk to you," the text read. "Please." My mind raced. Why now? After everything? I debated for a moment, but curiosity won out. I called her. Her voice was small, distant. I heard what you found out," she said, her words faltering. "And I'm sorry. I didn't know about the inheritance. I didn't know what they were doing." Her voice cracked, and I could hear the genuine regret in her words. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Was she really remorseful? Was she part of this, or had she been manipulated just like I had? I had always seen Emma as the golden child, the one who always had everything handed to her. But in that moment, I saw a different side of her, vulnerable, regretful, maybe even scared. It made me pause. Was I still angry at her, or had I simply been angry at everything else? At my parents, at the life I thought I deserved? "I'm sorry," she repeated. "I never wanted to hurt you." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to let go of the anger, but another part of me wanted justice. I had been wronged, and I wanted them to feel the weight of it. But now, the lines were blurred. Was it Emma I was angry at? Or was it the system, the years of being ignored, belittled, and made to feel small? "I don't know what to do with this," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You can't change what happened," she said softly, almost pleading, "but you can decide how to move forward." I felt the weight of her words, but they didn't make things any clearer. Could I ever forgive them all, or had the betrayal gone too deep? As I hung up the phone, I realized something. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about finding a way to heal, to reclaim my life and my sense of self. I didn't need to destroy them to move forward, but I did need to take control of my future. So I made the decision. I was going to confront them, but not out of anger. Not for revenge, but for justice. For myself. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me anymore. I would take back what was mine, but I would do it with dignity. It wasn't the easiest choice. In fact, it was terrifying. The hardest part wasn't the confrontation. It was deciding who I wanted to become when this was all over. Would I be the woman who let the past define her, or the woman who reclaimed her future? I didn't know yet, but I was ready to find out. I stood there, outside their house, clutching the folder of documents that would change everything. My heart was pounding in my chest, the nerves threatening to overwhelm me, but I couldn't back down now. This was it. The moment when the truth had to come out. I rang the doorbell, my hand trembling as I waited for my parents to answer. When the door swung open, my mom's face lit up with a warm smile, but it faltered when she saw the look in my eyes. "Sweetheart, what's going on? I haven't seen you in weeks." She stepped aside to let me in, but I didn't move. "I need to talk to both of you," I said, my voice steady, but the words felt heavy. My father appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "What's the matter, kid?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Something happened?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I opened the folder and laid the documents on the table. The silence that followed felt suffocating. My mom's eyes widened when she saw the bank statements, the records of the transactions that had been made without my knowledge. "What's this?" she asked, her voice faltering. "Where did you get this?" "It's the inheritance," I replied, keeping my voice calm but firm. "The $50,000 that was meant for me, the one you said I declined. Turns out you used it for Emma's condo." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. I could see the color drain from my dad's face, his expression shifting from confusion to guilt. "You don't understand," he began, his voice cracking. "We did it for Emma. She needed it. And you were fine. You had your future ahead of you, and we thought—" He trailed off, his words meaningless now. I wasn't sure if he was trying to justify his actions or if he truly believed it, but it didn't matter anymore. "No," I said, my voice rising. "You didn't think. You took what was mine and hid it from me. You used me as an excuse to cover up what you did. How long did you think I wouldn't find out?" My mom's eyes filled with tears, but I couldn't feel sorry for her. She hadn't even apologized, just tried to manipulate the situation further. "We didn't mean for it to happen like this," she whispered, wiping her eyes. "We thought we were helping. You didn't need it like Emma did." "Don't you dare tell me what I needed," I snapped, the anger building inside me. "You had no right to make that decision for me. I worked hard for everything I have, and you took my future and gave it to her." My father stepped forward, his voice strained. "We were trying to help our daughter. Emma's been struggling, and you—" "No," I interrupted, shaking my head. "This isn't about Emma. This is about you using me to fix your mistakes. You lied to me. You betrayed me." The words stung, and I could feel the weight of everything I had kept bottled up for so long. I wasn't just angry at them for taking my money. I was angry for the years I had spent pretending it was okay, for the years I had convinced myself that everything would get better if I just kept trying. "I'm not here to beg for my money," I said, the calmness in my voice now feeling almost foreign. "I'm here to make you face the consequences of what you did." I pulled out a second piece of paper, a letter from the lawyer detailing the legal steps I was prepared to take to get my inheritance back. "I want my $50,000 back, with interest. If you don't pay, I'll take you to court." My parents just stood there, their faces ashen. I could see the panic setting in, the realization that they had underestimated me. Emma's betrayal, their betrayal, it was all catching up to them now. They tried to speak, to apologize, but the words didn't matter anymore. I had already made my decision. The anger that had fueled me for so long started to fade, replaced with something else, an understanding. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishing them for what they did. It was about taking back what was mine and finding the strength to move forward. I turned to leave, but before I did, I looked back at them, one last time. My mom's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something real. Regret. But it was too late. I had already made my peace. "Revenge?" I whispered to myself as I walked out the door. "No, it's not about that. It's about justice. It's about standing up for myself. And as the door clicked shut behind me, I realized something else. This was only the beginning. I thought the truth had already hit me hard. I had my money, I had stood up to my parents, and I had finally taken control of my life. But that wasn't the end. It wasn't even close. The morning after the confrontation, I received a call. It was from my aunt again, the one who had initially told me about the inheritance. "There's something else you need to know," she said, her voice shaky, like she was holding back something important. My heart sank. What more could there be? I had already uncovered the betrayal, the lies, and the manipulation. But as my aunt continued, I realized I was far from the end of this nightmare. "Your parents, they didn't just take your inheritance," she said. "They've been using your name on other accounts too. It's not just the condo money. They've been using your good credit to take out loans, all in your name. They've been hiding it from you for years." My world felt like it was crumbling around me. Everything I had believed about my family, about who they were, and what they stood for, was a lie. It wasn't just about money. It was about trust, about respect, and about their complete disregard for me. My mom and dad had taken so much from me, not just financially, but emotionally. They had used me, manipulated me, and I had never seen it. My whole life, I had looked up to them, respected them. They were my parents, but they weren't the people I thought they were. The betrayal went deeper than I ever imagined. "I don't know what to say," I said, my voice barely a whisper. How could they do this to me? How could I have been so blind? My aunt paused before replying, her voice soft. "I know it's hard, but you have to know. You need to understand what they've done." It felt like a punch to the gut. I had spent so many years trying to prove myself to them, trying to gain their approval, trying to be enough. But none of that mattered. They had taken advantage of me, and I had let them. I had been so focused on what they wanted me to be that I had ignored the truth about who they really were. The more I thought about it, the more it hit me. I wasn't just angry at them. I was angry at myself. I had allowed myself to believe in the illusion of who they were, and that made me feel like a fool. But it also made me realize something. I couldn't keep living this way. I couldn't keep carrying the weight of their lies, their manipulation, their neglect. I had to let go. "You don't need them," my aunt said, her words cutting through my thoughts. "You've done everything on your own, and now you have to live for yourself. You're stronger than they ever gave you credit for." In that moment, I understood. The healing wasn't about reclaiming what was taken from me. It wasn't about getting revenge or making them pay. It was about finding my own path. It was about taking back my life, my independence, and my sense of self-worth. For the first time in years, I realized I no longer needed their approval. I had already proven that I was enough, and now I had to move forward without them. But as I thought about everything that had happened, I couldn't help but wonder, could I ever truly move on from this betrayal? Could I let go of all the years of hurt, all the years of feeling invisible and unimportant? Can we truly move on from betrayal, or do we carry it with us forever? I asked myself. I didn't have an answer, but I did know one thing. I was ready to start over. I was ready to build a life that wasn't defined by their mistakes, and I was going to live it for myself, no one else. What would you do if you could start over? What's holding you back from living the life you deserve?